Hello, everybody. Welcome back to part two of this live stream that I attempted to do a while back, and my voice just wouldn't let me. I think we'll be better off today. Um, I have a lot of ground to cover. If you missed part one, I will link it up above later. It's where I talked about my stats of my reading stats for quarter two and favorite books of quarter two. And then today we're going to be talking about progress on my goals for the year, spending on books, income, and like how I'm doing with financial goals for the year, and some things that I'm just thinking about being 6 years in. Um, Hopefully, we'll do better. I'm like, I'm at more than 2 weeks now of having this like respiratory thing, and I finally went to the doctor a couple of days ago, and so now I'm on like antibiotics and things. So like it's been a time. But I'm doing a lot better. So anyway, hi, hello, hi. Thank you. Yes, 6 years. That's so wild. The way time flies. Hello. So hope y'all are doing well. Hello again. Hey Lexi. Hi Lori. Welcome. Okay, so let me put up my slides and so I'm quickly just kind of gonna zip past what I talked about in part one, which was all my book stats for quarter two. Lots of stats, because of course. And then favorite books. My voice was like really failing me at this point, so maybe I'll just like briefly go over some of this. These were honorable mentions. I won't spend as much time on those, but there were some really, really good books. Fourth Wing, I've made a video talking about. I understand why it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it was one of the most fun reading experiences that I've had. And I loved The Fiancé Farce, like all the sapphic rom-com stuff I would love. I would love to see a Netflix adapted. It would make such a fun movie. Angela and Booley is always a hit. Everybody should go pre-order If You'll Have Me because it's so cute. It's like the cutest sapphic college-age romance coming out in October. I don't know. I feel like I've talked about a lot of these in other videos. Like, yeah, The Honeys was excellent. Also, if you're an audiobook listener, The Honeys audiobook is so cool. It's really well produced. It's got sound effects, like immersive sound effects, which is just super cool. And Camp Damascus is now out, and y'all should go read it because that would be awesome. So anyway, so that's what I covered in part one. Thank you, Valerie. I hope so too. Hi. Yes, I'm feeling better. Asterisk. For anybody like if you are just coming in, like I said, I've now had this like upper respiratory thing for like I guess we're going on 2.5 weeks almost. But I did finally go to a doctor a couple days ago, so I'm on like an antibiotic and a steroid. So I'm feeling better, but hopefully it'll like oh my gosh. It's not been ideal. Hi. Especially when what I do is make videos on the internet. It makes it challenging, but my voice is doing a lot better. So, okay. Goals, spending and finances. Let's talk about this. Okay, so how am I doing with my goals for the year? I'm doing fine with my reading. I always set a very conservative reading goal on Goodreads. This year it was 200 books, even though I typically read closer to 400. All of this is as of the end of June. So this doesn't count all the stuff I'm going to talk about is not counting anything that's happened in July. So as of June 1st, I read 233 out of 200 books. So I'm probably again going to read about 400, but I'm not trying to read 400. So I always have a very conservative goal, and then we see what happens. My TBR challenge books are going really well. I've read 14 out of the 22 books on that list so far, which is great. I got to attend a film premiere, which was really cool, and did the red carpet for the first time. There's a photo from that on my Instagram if you want to go and look for it. And that was kind of a goal I had. YouTube invited me, and it was really fun for the book club movie part 2 back in April, I want to say. So that was exciting because that was something I kind of wanted to do, and so the fact that I got to do it was pretty awesome. Decrease spending on books, which I think I've been doing a pretty good job about. We'll talk about that. I've also been aiming to do one like controversial or semi-controversial video a month to see how they perform. We're going to talk more about this as well later. I have been pretty much doing that. I don't know that I've done any in July now that I think about it. This month has just been it's been a lot. Between vacation and getting sick, like I'm keeping my head above water, so I don't it may not happen this month, but the first 6 months of the year I did this. And then Patreon growth and sponsored videos, we're going to talk more about in a future slide, but I'm doing reasonably well. Like I'm making progress towards some of those goals that I had. So how is my spending looking? In 2022, the average cost of what I was spending on books per month, this includes physical, digital, like audiobooks, Kindle, all of that was $236.13 a month. Last year was the first time I tracked that. And my goal was to be averaging closer to like $150 to $200 a month. And my average between January and June was $170 and $8, which is great. That's right in where I want it to be. This doesn't include, there was like one book that was very expensive that I did buy as like a splurge or pre-ordered in January. So if I put that in the mix, then it throws off all my numbers. So I'm not including it because it's like a one-off. But in general, my spending has been significantly lower every month. Which is great. I've been trying to be more conservative about purchases, and I've also been trying to buy more of my audiobooks from Libra FM when I'm able to, because I would rather support them than support Audible, although some things I can only get from Audible, so I kind of use both, but that has also been going well. So let's talk about finances. If you missed it, I had a live stream in January where I was pretty transparent about my finances and what my goals were and why those were my goals. So in 2022, I was making an average of, I made $10,000, which is an average of $840 a month doing this full time. And that does include full-time hours of content creation. My goal for 2023, which I knew was ambitious, was to try to jump that to 20,000 a year with more goals in the future. The reason for this is that it's partly trying to see, is this something realistically I can do long term versus the income I would make in, like, for instance, a low level marketing position in New York City where the average starting income for somebody like me would be like at least $50,000 a year. So I'm like, can I make it sustainable? Let's see. Like, let me put this out there and see how things go. So to meet that goal, the average would need to be around $1,667 a month if I was going to hit the goal for 2023. So how am I doing on that? I'm doing well. I'm not hitting that, but it has been a significant increase. So between January and June, my average income across all of my different things, which I think I have another slide on this, it has been 12,000, or sorry, 12,000, that'd be great. $1,247 a month, which would set me on track to make about $15,000 for the year. Thank you to my patrons, which doubled in number. That response was incredible and made a huge difference in terms of income. So what I'm seeing is there's definitely been a significant increase this year. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to hit my goal. And so one of the things I'm thinking about, which I'll talk more about, is what might that mean for how I might pivot going forward, especially given the fact that I've been on YouTube for 6 years now. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. I wanted to try to start doing about a sponsored video per quarter on average. And so in quarters 1 and 2, I had one sponsored video, but I have 2 sponsored videos happening in July, and then I have some sponsored content on Instagram. So I think it kind of balances out. Like, I'm getting about that. I am very picky about what sponsorships I will take. The one I took in the early part of the year was from Pango Books. And I, you know, I'm very picky about what sponsorships I take, but I am trying to be a little bit more intentional about seeking out at least some reasonable number of them. So that's going pretty well. Okay, I'm going to pause there and take a look at comments and then we'll move on. I know I have a lot of stuff to cover, so let's see. So hi, you say your name is Christina. You want to ask a question? Yeah, if it's especially if it's related, sure. Yeah, if you have a question, feel free to ask. And if people have questions about what I'm sharing or comments, you're welcome to ask. I try to be pretty transparent about it. And it is worth saying that the only reason I've been able to do what I do full time for as long as I have is because I have a spouse who earns enough to cover the majority of our family's bills. But in terms of long-term financial planning, paying off loans, maybe eventually actually like buying a house one day, who knows, now that we're, in our 30s and 40s. Um, that like I'm trying to think about like what are my long-term goals financially. So this is part of where this is coming from. All right. So I'm not seeing any questions pop up here. I don't know. Sometimes it takes a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. And then if anybody has questions or comments that they want to add, you're welcome to. Oh, okay. So now what I don't think I said, okay, I may not have put this in the slide, but I should say that this uh this income, the things that are included in this income are the biggest one is Patreon, and then AdSense, which is like what Google pays me for ads paying on the video. Um, any sponsorship money, affiliate income, and like income from selling my books. Like that's pretty much it. Oh, okay. Um, so question about modeling and being pregnant, live with your aunt and uncle. Okay. I mean, a great living. I do well for myself. I love it, but I also want to be a mommy. Would you do it part-time or not at all? I mean, I think if your goal is like I think there is an income to be made in modeling, and I don't know if it's enough because you're saying you live with your aunt and uncle. So I don't know if it's something where you're able to support yourself um doing that, but there are certainly parents who are models. Um so I just think you have to kind of figure out like what's going to work. You can be a mom and have other jobs or things that you do. I think it's actually for a lot of people a good thing to have other things that you're doing. So I don't know that I would say don't do it. I think but obviously I don't know, you're saying you're 18. Okay. And love being able to support yourself. Yeah, I mean, I would say if that's what you love doing and you're able to support yourself and your child doing it, I don't see why you would stop doing it unless there's something else that you want to do, but that's just my take. I mean, I think, maybe talk to a financial planner and think about like kind of what are your long-term goals, but I don't think there's any reason that you can't have that as a career and also have children. I mean, there are people like, oh gosh, what's her name? There's a model I like who works for Torrid a lot, and she's about to have her first baby with a partner. And she's going to probably continue modeling. But yeah. So yes, Bronwyn, thank you. Might be a question to put forth on Discord community or something, get some ranged answers. Yeah, so I'm gonna keep going with the topic for this just because to this point it's a little off topic from what we're covering today, but that's kind of my 2 cents. But I do think that maybe if you wanted to go into my Discord and ask, see if people have any thoughts, you're welcome to do that. I'm not an expert on modeling, so that's just but I do think you know, you can do a variety of things regardless of whether you're a parent. Okay, so let's go forward. So now what? Okay, so here are some things that I'm thinking. It's been 6 years, right? I've been doing this, which is wild. I've been doing this for 6 years. And I don't know, some of you have been with me long enough that you've maybe heard my story of how I got into YouTube. Some of you might be newer and might not be familiar. So this sort of happened because I was unexpectedly home with an infant and a toddler and had never really wanted to be just a stay-at-home parent, and but for financial reasons had to be home with them and needed some kind of an outlet. And for my birthday, took myself to BookCon where I found out that BookTube was a thing and thought, oh, I love books. I could do that. And just decided to just start a channel, and it kind of turned into what it was. So I've been doing it for 6 years, like pretty much pretty consistently, pretty full time. Like I've been making, yeah, I mean, two or more videos per week, almost every week for 6 years. It's wild. Um, and I love it. I love a lot about it. I love the creativity. I have enjoyed getting to challenge myself to learn new skills in terms of getting better at editing, trying different video formats, trying a podcast. I've done a little bit of everything. I've done the TikToks and shorts and kind of have played around with what do I like and what do I not like. And so and some of that has evolved over years. So I've been thinking about what are the things that I do and don't enjoy making, because I think sometimes if I feel like I'm just doing the same thing all the time, it can start to feel less exciting and less fresh. And I think I'm a person who needs it to feel fun and exciting and fresh to me, where I'm trying something new. It can be a little bit frustrating, right? Because sometimes there are videos that I want to make, and sometimes I do anyway, that like other people are less interested in watching from me. I think every channel, everybody who has a channel has this, where you start to see patterns in like what are the videos from you that people tend to watch more, what are the ones that tend to not perform as well, and sometimes those are different in the short term and in the long term. um but I will say I don't like, one thing is that I don't really enjoy making a lot of super controversial content. I don't mind doing it sometimes if there's something I feel strongly about. I don't necessarily have a problem with it. But I think with me dipping my toes into having this goal of like, well, let me try making a video about once a month that's going to be like a little more on the controversial side and see how that goes. It's made me realize that if it's not something a topic that I'm feeling strongly about, and it's something that I'm trying to do, it just kind of stresses me out and it's not fun. But when I look at what are the things that tend to be really successful, or the people who tend to be really successful in this space, it does tend to be people who are focusing on controversial content or negative content. And I don't have any problem with the fact that they do that. Because I have friends who do those things, and I also see the toll that it can take on like mental health. And so for me, I have to consider like what are the trade-offs, is that like I really value my own sort of peace and mental health, and that's something that I want to prioritize. And so I'm having to kind of reckon with like what are the things that I want to be doing on this channel? What are the things I care about? Well, I love sharing my enjoyment for books, the things that I like reading. I don't mind doing critical reviews. I have no problem with that. I think those are important things to do, but it's not something that I would ever want to do all the time, just because like very, very negatively critical reviews, just because that's not me. I care a lot about trying to support and uplift books by marginalized authors in a lot of different ways. People who are from racial or ethnic minorities, people who are authors who are queer, authors who are disabled or neurodivergent. Those are things that I think are really important. And there are authors with books coming out who just don't get the publishing or marketing dollars that they deserve. And so if I can be a part of trying to like draw attention to the people who are writing amazing books from some of those communities, I feel like I'm doing something positive. And not like, yeah, and I think anybody who's like been on my channel long enough knows, if I read a book from somebody from one of those communities that I don't think is very good, I'm still going to review it honestly. It's not like I'm going to like inflate those things, but that there are a lot of genuinely fantastic books from authors who deserve more attention than they get. And those are things that I care about. I care about representation. I care about like people being able to find themselves in the books that they're reading. and just like community. Those are the things that I value. I don't know that those are the things that the YouTube algorithm values nearly as much, but that's a lot of what makes meaning for me is feeling like I'm uh I don't know, doing something positive, doing more activism or talking about different issues that matter a lot to me through the lens of books. Those are the things that make this feel like a meaningful experience and a meaningful job that I want to continue with. I also love the community aspect. That has shifted in some ways. I think COVID changed a lot of stuff for a lot of people, and the landscape of content creation has shifted a lot. There's so much more on TikTok, which is not my primary platform. I, s- and I have friends that I've made through this who I care a lot about that we've like now been friends for years and create stuff together. And so I enjoy doing some of that. I will say I feel like the last few months I've been like edging a little bit on burnout at times, and so it's part of why I wanted to sort of take a step back and think about, okay, like what is working for me? What isn't working? Like what do I want to be doing? And I think one thing that I've realized is because I at the beginning of the year sort of set for myself, okay, well I have these like financial goals I'm trying to meet. I've put so much pressure on myself to be constantly attuned to, okay, well, like, how is Patreon performing? How are these videos performing? Like, and the stress of that makes it harder for me to just be creative. And so I'm trying to think about how can I have a more nuanced approach where like, yeah, I like, I mean, obviously you want things to do well, but where I want to make videos that I'm excited to make and videos that speak to what I really want to do here. And for me, from my financial perspective, that probably means pivoting a little bit. When I think about long term, where do I want to be in another 6 years, right? I don't necessarily see myself still just doing this full time. I love it. I want to keep doing it and I want to keep making videos and drawing attention to these books, but I have other things I'm curious about and other things I want to try and um other ways I want to expand my creative energies and make space for that in my life. One thing that I was talking to my therapist about recently is this question of how do we measure success? And this is interesting because I think traditionally speaking, right? Like okay, this is like maybe a little personal, but hopefully like some people maybe some people can relate to this. I was one of those like gifted kids in school who did very well and for a long time tied a lot of my identity into my academic performance. Um and that's something I've worked on for a long time is like learning that that's not where that's not where my value comes from, but I think because of that, it can be easy to feel like, well, am I doing enough if I don't see some kind of measurable success, right? So you get out of an academic environment and then how do people measure success? A lot of people might measure it from income, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing this thing that is creative and fulfilling and I feel like is doing some positive things, but there's not these external markers of success. What's another way you might measure it? You might measure it by like growth. Like, okay, if you have like many, very like a channel that sort of like takes off in terms of subscribers or whatever, and then there's the financial piece that goes with it. Maybe that's how you measure success. But, like, my therapist was telling me, "Well, like, maybe you need to think about what you consider to be success, not what do other people see as success, not worrying about, like, what does your family or what do people around you view as you being successful, but, like, what is it that you want and prioritize and value?" And so when I sit back and think about that, the things that I care about are, like, am I feeling like I'm being creatively fulfilled? Do I feel like I'm at peace and in a good mental health space and able to take care of myself in the way that I want to? And also, um, do I feel like I'm making some kind of a positive difference in my community in person and virtually. And those are really, really different metrics, right? And I know there can be that tension. I think a lot of people go through this of the tension of like, well, am I trying to perform for this idea of like what I think other people expect from me and prove myself worthy? Or am I thinking about like what does my success look like my idea of success? So these are like the things I'm thinking a lot about. This is very meta, but this is what I'm thinking about at 6 years. I'm thinking about like the future and what where do I want to be and where do I want to go and what do I value from this. So, I don't remember, like, if I made another slide. Do I have another slide? Oh, I do. Okay, okay. Yeah, some change. Okay. So this is the stuff I'm thinking about. I'll pause and look. I know I have a couple of comments. This is very, very meta. Hello. Thank you. I appreciate this. Drawing attention to books like that is one reason I love your channel. Thanks, Lexi. I'm glad. And that's the thing that I really appreciate is I know there are a core group of people who really appreciate that I do that. And that's why I think the Patreon has been such a cool way to see the people who really just want to support the work that I'm doing who are able to do so. And I know that can be hard depending on finances and everything, but yeah. Lori, you do a fantastic job of highlighting books we may not have heard about that equals success to me. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, and I think this is something we can all think about is like how do we view success because it's more complicated than just the numbers, right? I think people tend to think about like numbers or notoriety and stuff, but it's a lot more than that. Changes, okay, so changes to expect. So here's where I'm at. All of these things taken into consideration because I will say the financial piece, even though I don't have lofty financial goals, I am also thinking about the financial security of my family long term. With some of our financial goals that we have for ourselves as we're getting older and thinking about like okay like we're saving for retirement, we need to start saving more for kids going to college and trying to help a little bit with that. We maybe want to like buy a house one day at some point in the future and finish paying off student loans. So like there is that element of it too where I'm trying to balance like okay I these are the things that I want, but also there's some level of wanting to increase income in the long run. So those are kind of the things that I'm balancing in all of my thoughts. Okay, so there are going to be some changes coming to the Patreon in 2024. I typically do make changes in the fall, announce them in the fall, and implement them in January. So that is going to happen this year. They just might be slightly larger changes than before. I'm still thinking about exactly what that's going to look like. So more to come on that. If you're part of the Patreon, you'll have plenty of notice, probably like September, October. I'll start talking about what those changes are going to look like, but there will be some changes to the structure that are particularly going to affect the way that I do some of the higher tiers with like mailings and stuff. So more to come on that. I want to get back to doing more writing. I used to write before I had children. And I always thought one day I would like to get back to it. And now my kids are older. I mean, right now they need me a lot because it's summertime. And so it's been chaotic and I'm not getting nearly as much done. But when they're in school, they don't need me as much of the time. I have more space to work on things. And this is something I want to build into my schedule. And it's something that I have to be really intentional about because the hard thing about writing is that you do it and you do it alone and you don't know if it's going to go anywhere. You don't know if anyone else is going to care. You don't know if it's going to have a positive reception for probably a really long time. Making videos is great because you make it and you put it up and you get immediate feedback. So sometimes it can be easier for me to instead channel it into making videos. And I do want to keep making videos. But I think sometimes I do it because it's easier and because writing is the scary thing. But I do have and have had for a long time a lot of various ideas floating around in my head that I would like to try. So that's something that I want to make a priority, probably starting in the fall. I'm just like summers are wild with children being home more of the time, so I'd like there's no way. But starting starting in the fall, that's a thing I would like to make a priority for myself and other creative things. Like one thing that I've been interested in is maybe taking like voice acting classes and looking into doing things like audiobooks. Like these are things I've thought about over the years, but I haven't taken practical steps to look into, and I want to make space to be able to do that. I also just want to make the videos that I want to make, the things that I'm interested in, that I care about, that make me happy, and make the concern less about whether these are the videos that are going to be the most successful or not. And hopefully eventually it'll work out and balance it out where people are going to like the things that I'm happy making, like hopefully that will happen. But yeah, that's another thing I want to work on, and maybe finding other work. Maybe this means finding some other part-time work, either I don't know, I've thought about like part-time work in a bookstore or some kind of a freelance thing or marketing. I've had various ideas, but maybe this also might mean finding another outlet, or maybe the writing could be that. Maybe like, I do know that there are people who, I don't think it's a lot, but like get paid to write book reviews or articles for different outlets that are in the bookish world. So those are some things that I might look into. If people have suggestions, feel free to let me know. So this is kind of what I'm thinking. I'm trying to start to make more space for myself to try things, including the things that are a little bit more intimidating or a little more scary, instead of just doing what's comfortable, because I think that can be easy to do. Um, and so there will be changes going forward, but hopefully positive ones. So this is the kind of the stuff I'm reflecting on as I've been on YouTube now for 6 years doing this, because I think burnout is really real. Looking back at who are the people who I started with, the cohort of people who all started, what year was it, like 2017, summer of 2017. Some of them are still around making content, and like some of those people I'm friends with, and some of them are not making any content and haven't been for a while, because I think if it's not something that continues to be a passion and something that's exciting and fulfilling, it can be really easy to just sort of taper off. So, like, I started making videos around the same time as Mara from Books Like Whoa, Alexa Dunn, Leanna. Like, we all kind of started our channels right around the same time. And it's been fun to kind of know them through that period. But there are a lot of people who were here who aren't anymore. So, I hope that I can make shifts so that this continues to be fun and interesting for me, because there is a lot that I appreciate about it and want to continue forward with. So hopefully that is helpful. But thank you so much to everybody who has been a part of watching my videos and supporting me and interacting with me in whatever way that you're able to. It has meant a lot, and it's been really cool, and things have really grown in ways that I don't think I expected them to when I started this 6 years ago from scratch. Okay, let's see. Vivian says, "What's your opinion on Game of Thrones series?" Oh, thank you. So I haven't. Okay, so like I've read the first 2.5 books, but it was years ago, and I used to be, a lot of y'all know this, I used to be much more conservative, and, so I, like, ended up DNFing the series, but I do want to try them again, so there may be something in the works for that. I've not seen the show. I have, though. Leanna finally badgered me into it. I have seen the first season of, House of the Dragon, which was excellent, and we have a podcast episode about it. But I don't know, I'm trying to think. I think I'm not sure if that's, like, part of the SAG-AFTRA strike, which I'm trying to support as well, and I'm not gonna be, taking more opportunities while they're on strike to talk about struck work, but yeah. But I do wanna read, I would like to try revisit the books. So those are my slides. That's kind of like an overview of where things are at, things I'm thinking about. Does anybody have any questions or it can be related or not related. I can hang out for a little bit, before I have to go, like, run some errands and stuff. Also, I dyed my hair for the first time, and I kind of love it, but it was way more expensive than I thought it was gonna be, so I don't know how realistic it is to keep it, but it's been very fun having, like, a mid-30s identity crisis, I guess. No, I don't know. It's fun. I'm, like, trying stuff that I never did before, and I'm enjoying it. Oh, yeah. So it's a lot to think about, a lot I'm processing with my therapist, and, hopefully we'll have, like, some fun content. I do have some fun projects in the works that I'm yeah. So there will be things coming, but I'm just thinking a lot, reflecting. Yay, thanks, Lexi. Love the hair. Yeah, I really like it too. It's like my kids are split on it. My oldest is not really a fan, and my youngest thinks it's cool and wants to do it as well. So, which tracks given their personalities. It's not the most surprising thing, but I'm having fun with it. Yeah. So I don't know where everybody else is at. And like I mentioned this before, but I do want to acknowledge that it is, like there is a certain amount of privilege in being able to even have this be an option for me, which I know and I appreciate that a lot. Um because I couldn't have done this for so long full time if I didn't have a spouse who earns enough to cover as much of our bills as he does. So, yeah. But again, life goes quick and I'm like, "Oh my god, we're going to have a kid in college in 9 years. We need to figure that out." So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much to everybody for joining me. If nobody has any other questions or anything, I guess I will end it there. But thank you all so much for 6 years, and, hopefully I get completely better, but at least my voice is better. So that's good. And I'll have a TBR video coming up fairly soon. It's, like, filmed, but I just need to edit it, and, I'm hoping by the end of the month, I'm doing a reading vlog for Cashil's Dart and Cassiel's Servant, which is the new book coming out in August that's like it's it's like book 1 told from a different character's perspective, and that's been really interesting. So stay tuned for that. My review on Goodreads is up for Cashil's Dart if you want to read it, but more info is going to be coming in that video. So hopefully soon. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I will see you soon. Bye.